That's the thing about books. They let you travel without moving your feet. I wanted to start today's video with this quote because I found it the other day on Pinterest and I thought that it was a perfect quote to represent books because they do allow you to travel without even taking one step. So I am excited to share all my favorite books that I read during 2022, especially during the end of the year. I decided that I wanted to read more books and that's exactly what I did and what I am continuing on doing. I'm not gonna give out any spoilers for any of the books, so you can freely watch, don't worry. I'm just gonna give you the plot that the book already gives. There will be no spoilers. And of course, I'm gonna give you my opinion for each book. I'm not gonna ramble, I'm gonna start with the first book that I really enjoyed reading during 2022, and actually I read this book during December, and it is The Christmas Bookshop by Jenny Colgan. I wanted to mention this book first in case anyone is trying to get into the holiday spirit. So let's see what this book is all about. Carmen does not like accepting help, least of all from her perfect in every way older sister, Sophia. But Carmen needs a job fast, and Sophia happens to know where she can find one. Mr. McCready's bookshop is in trouble. Dusty bookshelves are in disarray, and the old bell above the door hardly ever announces a new customer. If Mr. McCready doesn't turn things around by Christmas, he will be forced to sell. Carmen is his last hope. Everyone is convinced it will take a miracle to save McCready's bookshop. Even Carmen, distracted by a rather handsome visitor, doesn't believe she can save the day. But it is possible that this Christmas Carmen might surprise everyone, including herself. So this book is a feel-good, happy end, a little bit of romance, a little bit of reality, a little bit of everything actually. The book takes place in snowy Edinburgh, so how magical is that? While I had already started reading the book, I checked out some of the streets that the book was mentioning and I was amazed. I definitely want to visit Edinburgh one day. I hope I will achieve that. I know I will. I'm not just hoping, I know I will. One day I will visit this beautiful city. And if you want a feel-good festive book to get into the holiday spirit, this is your book. What I noticed about this book while I was reading it is that it kind of reminded me of some cozy Christmas Netflix movies that I have seen in the past, but in a good way. Definitely better than most of the Netflix Christmas movies that I have seen, but it has that sweet festive vibe to it that I really enjoyed. If you want a feel-good festive book, this should be your choice. The next book, which is hands down one of my all-time favorite books, is Ikigai. This was the second time that I was actually reading this book. I had also read it, I think, back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, I kept it and I knew that I wanted to read it again. And since I decided that I want to start reading more books, I knew that I had to reread this one. It's such a beautiful book. As I mentioned, it's called Ikigai, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life. And I really admire the Japanese culture, and it would be a dream to visit Japan one day as well. I know I want to travel a lot. It has been years since I was introduced to the Japanese culture through videos, pictures, movies, and articles that I have read. I have to say that the Japanese culture is very admirable. I remember that when I used to work at a hotel, whenever I was talking to Japanese guests, they always had something very calming to them, very respectful, very admirable. That means that when I saw that in the bookshop, I had to get it. This book is written by Hector Garcia and Frances Miralles, and let me fill you in about what this book is about. The people of Japan believe that everyone has an ikigai, a reason to jump out of bed each morning. Inspiring and comforting, this book will give you the life-changing tools to uncover your personal ikigai. It will show you how to leave urgency behind, find your purpose, nurture friendships, and throw yourself into your passions. Bring meaning and joy to every day with ikigai. Obviously, before that, I never knew what ikigai meant or really thought about what I am doing with my life and what is my ikigai. This book was definitely eye-opening, and at some point they also mention how they visit a Japanese village and how the people there live, and even though they are very old, they still move and are efficient and have a healthy, balanced lifestyle. I definitely encourage you to check it out. The next book I read is The Prisoner of Heaven from Carlos Ruiz Zafón, one of the best novels I have ever read, and normally I don't read novels that are more on the darker side, if you will, because I am a very sensitive person and I don't want to hear or read that people suffer or that they go through very difficult situations. But this book is definitely one of my favorites. I got this book back in 2019 as well. I read it back then and I read it this year again. Because I waited a few years to reread the book, I obviously did not remember the plot that well. So it was almost as exciting reading it as it was the first time that I was reading it. Let me fill you in about what this book is all about. I will read it from my laptop because my book is in Greek. So, Barcelona, 1957. It is Christmas and Daniel Sampere and his wife Bea have much to celebrate. They have a beautiful new baby son named Julian, and their close friend Fermin Romero de Torres is about to be wed. But their joy is eclipsed when a mysterious stranger visits the Sampere bookshop and threatens to divulge a terrible secret that has been buried for 2 decades in the city's dark past. His appearance plunges Fermin and Daniel into a dangerous adventure that will take them back to the 1940s and the dark early days of Franco's dictatorship. The terrifying events of that time launched them on a journey fraught with jealousy, suspicion, vengeance, and lies, a search for the truth that will put into peril everything they love and ultimately transform their lives. So it sounds very intriguing, it sounds very interesting because it is, and I really find the whole plot very interesting, very mysterious. You're turning page to page and you're wondering what will happen now, what will happen next, what is really going on. One of the best books I have ever read for sure, so if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely check it out. One of my favorite books ever since I was a child is called A Little Princess. It's this book right here. It is by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I remember as a child my mother used to read this book to me, and ever since then I was in love with this book. Every few years I used to read it by myself when I also grew older. And this year I decided to read it one more time. This book will forever stay with me. Even though this book is for children, it's not that childish and it has a very beautiful message behind it. Let me fill you in about the plot. Sarah Creeve, an exceptionally intelligent and imaginative student at Miss Minch's Select Seminary for Young Ladies, is devastated when her adored, indulgent father dies. Now penniless and banished to a room in the attic, Sarah is demeaned, abused, and forced to work as a servant. How this resourceful girl's fortunes change again is at the center of A Little Princess. I believe that you can still find the book and it has a quite low price, so I definitely encourage you to check it out. Maybe if you read it, you can also then leave a comment and tell me what you thought about it. And this book just has the most powerful message that even though you might one day be on top of the world and then the next day suddenly go super downhill, if you just stay true to who you are, at the end of the day your luck will change again. Definitely one of my all-time favorites ever since I was a child, so I had to mention this book in this video for sure. So all the rest of the books that I'm going to mention, I listened to them as audiobooks. So the first audiobook that I decided to listen was The Magic of Thinking Big by David Sparch. What is The Magic of Thinking Big all about? The Magic of Thinking Big gives you useful methods, not empty promises. Dr. Sparch presents a carefully designed program for getting the most out of your job, your marriage and family life, and your community. He proves that you don't need to be an intellectual or have innate talent to attain great success and satisfaction, but you do need to learn and understand the habit of thinking and behaving in ways that will get you there. I definitely love reading and maybe listening to audiobooks that concentrate on self-help, self-development, business, psychology, leadership, and all this good stuff. I really like reading and listening to these type of books as well. This book was definitely one of my favorites this year. It did mention some great points in there in that book. If you haven't checked it out already, you definitely should. The next audiobook that I listened this year is called How Successful People Think. Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. This book is by John C. Maxwell. So again, a book about the way you think, about thinking. And I really enjoyed this book. And how can I describe it? I feel like I admire this book and this author and how he explained everything. So let me fill you in about what this book is. Gather successful people from all walks of life. What would they have in common? The way they think. Now you can think as they do and revolutionize your work and life. How Successful People Think is the perfect compact read for today's fast-paced world. John C. Maxwell will teach you how to be more creative and when to question popular thinking. You'll learn how to capture the big picture while focusing your thinking. You'll find out how to tap into your creative potential, develop shared ideas, and derive lessons from the past to better understand the future. So if you are into books that are about self-help, business, leadership, psychology, productivity, I definitely encourage you to check out this book. I felt like when I was listening to that audiobook that, wow, this book has to be read by some of people that I have met in old workplaces. They really need that book. And I will just talk about the workplace right now, but there's a difference in being a boss and a difference in being a leader. And I feel like true leaders really think like the way the author is explaining in the book. And I really do believe that if you have a business or if you have employees or if you plan to start a business, you definitely need to grab this book and give it a read. And the last book that I'm going to mention is Atomic Habits. I also listened to that as an audiobook by James Clear. Incredible book. I always saw this book popping up on YouTube, on Pinterest, on Instagram, and people were definitely recommending this book, and I was thinking that it's probably a pretty good book. And turns out it is. I really enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people have already read it, but if you haven't, let me fill you in a little bit. No matter your goals, Atomic Habits offers a proven framework for improving every day. James Clear, one of the world's leading experts on habit formation, reveals practical strategies that will teach you exactly how to form good habits, break bad ones, and master the tiny behaviors that lead to remarkable results. If you're having trouble changing your habits, the problem isn't you. The problem is your system. Some things you will learn from this book is how to make time for new habits even when life gets crazy, overcome a lack of motivation and willpower, design your environment to make success easier, and get back on track when you fall off course. And a lot of more valuable knowledge is in this book. Grab a copy. I definitely encourage you to grab a copy of Atomic Habits. I really liked listening to these audiobooks while I was doing chores around the house, while I was walking on the treadmill. Also some days when I was having my breakfast, instead of scrolling on the phone or watching videos, I was listening to these audiobooks, and I'm telling you, they are definitely life-changing, definitely helpful, but they will be life-changing and helpful only if you decide them to be. These are not magic books. These are not books that will suddenly help you change the way you think or change your life or change who you are if you don't want to change. So we're making that clear. So these were my favorite books during 2022. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to let me know in the comments one book that you loved reading during 2022. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you all on my next video. Bye guys!